You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here.
Welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose. It's great to see you here today. Thanks so much for joining us. Friends of all ages and I won't even say any more about that. I'll get myself in trouble. Anyway, it's just good to see you. Welcome to our Kindness Cathedral, and I'm going to pass the word over to Lonnie.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, Bonnie, while you were running around backstage, I think everybody was having a good time.
Oh, good.
And then you appeared.
Oh.
It's even better.
That's cold. I lost my choir music. Does anybody see a black folder with a song in it? I don't know where it is.
Yeah, Mary said you'd lost it.
Yeah, I'll find it.
I think you're going to be in trouble.
I think I'll be okay.
Yeah. You'll probably.
I'm going to think positively.
Exactly.
How's that? Let's do spiritual mind treatment right now. Okay. All right, never mind.
All is well. Let's have some fun. Yeah. And so it is.
And so it is. So we're having Bill Hadris, our youth and family person, coming down. He's gonna guide us in his wisdom, aren't you? And he's got a balloon, which makes me very excited.
All right. Yes. Any of the children want to come down, help me out today?
Oh, come on.
Come on down, guys.
Come on. I love having the kids come on stage. Woohoo.
Couple are coming,
Couple are coming, yeah.
Got some help.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yay.
Come on up here.
You are welcome to stand on the stage or sit on the stage, whatever is most comfortable for you. Okay?
All right. So I'm Bill Hadris with Youth and Family. You know, we're all spiritual beings living a human experience, forever expanding our personal awareness of the divine within us. Each time we say yes to a new idea, step out of our comfort zone, or let go of something that no longer serves us.
Yay, it's my favorite thing.
Create space for something new and amazing to demonstrate in our lives. What are some of the things you think about? Do you ever make things up in your imagination? What is the most impossible question you have ever thought about?
Where's my choir music?
You know, our minds are very powerful and creative.
Mm-hmm.
What we focus on and think about becomes more and more in our life. If we think about happiness, we get more and more happiness. So, I'd like us to think about something together. Can you guys give me a God quality?
Kindness.
Kindness. I love it.
Good job.
So right now, I'd like everyone to take a breath, close their eyes, and think about kindness. I invite you all to repeat after me. I see kindness in my life.
I see kindness in my life.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll have a word of prayer from Lacey, our practitioner for today.
If all the ministers and practitioners would stand with me, thank you. Today is a beautiful day. It is full of love and kindness. And we are all here together, creating all of that with everything we do and say, and just by being who we are. And I know that there's only one life, and that life is God's life. And God's life is the life of everyone, everywhere, all the time, no matter what. God is in each and every one of us. There is no place that God is not. God is love and understanding, peace. And God is friendship and kindness and community. It's all God. And I know that today is blessed. Today is a day of beauty and kindness and fun. And today is a day of friendship and love and communing with Spirit together. And I know that everything is perfect, whole, and complete. And with that, I release my words into the universal law, knowing as I speak them, they are already so. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Lacey. And so we continue to breathe and rest in the awareness that Lacey brought us to with her beautiful words. Feeling that kindness and that love, that grace, that goodness that is always present. Even when we can't see it, it is here. So let us turn our attention to the highest and best in life, the highest and best in ourselves, and cultivate that and nurture it and allow it to grow this morning. And let us start by turning within, relaxing, letting go, and listening to the words of our sacred reading.
From Everything is Waiting for You by David White. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the way the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and to invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. So put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and have seen the good in you at last. All the birds and the creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you.
Amen. So trusting that we live in this world of grace where everything is waiting for us to receive it, to know it, and to trust us, to trust it. We start with remembering that the I Am presence is always here. It is within us. It is around us. It is among us. It is here and now. No matter who we are or what we've done, that I Am presence is alive and thriving in each of us. The I Am is another word for God or love or peace or happiness. What our young friend said up on the stage, kindness. It is all of those things and so much more. And all it asks is that we remember it, that we turn our attention to it and live in its presence as much as we possibly can. And so today, let us remember together. Remember the I Am as we sing together. And we remember the I Am presence, the presence of love within us and around us and in all beings. We remember it for ourselves, but as we remember it for ourselves, since there's only one being, only one oneness, we remember for ourselves, but we remember for the entire cosmos as well. Together we sing, I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who I am. into its heart, into its hands, into its being, and into our vision. As we breathe in deeply, and then exhale, opening our eyes in love and in service to what is, as it is, and so it is. Namaste.
I can hear such sadness in the voices of my friends, talking about this world and its pain. But we must not lose heart. We cannot give up hope. For long we have journeyed, waiting for this day. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger, the higher we climb, and we were made for these times. Let us turn our fear into courage, into faith, our greed to generosity. We can give our anger to love's compassion and turn this injustice towards peace and unity. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger, the higher we climb, and we were made for these times. Didn't we say we are believers? Didn't we ask for grace? We must remember right now we are needed to stand and shine our light in this hour, in this place. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger, the higher we climb, and we were made for these times. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But we will use our voices, we will not walk blind, and we were made for these times. Our hearts were made for these times.
David and Chris. You know, I noticed on the program it didn't have David's name, but that was David Kerrigan. So let's give him another round of applause. That's beautiful. You know, it's always interesting to follow a singer. That was a very heartfelt song, beautifully sung, wonderful. And now I'm going to bring out my hula hoop. So give me a minute. I'm going to walk off camera maybe for just a second, get my hula hoop, because there is a spiritual lesson in this. There really is, I think. Yeah, let's see if I can find a good spot to do this. Okay, so how many of you know how to use a hula hoop? Okay. How many of you have tried to use a hula hoop but have struggled and can't do it? Yeah. Rick Southam, really. We need to talk after service, okay? Yeah, when I was a kid, my big sisters could do it, and you know, my big sisters were like goddesses to me, and I always really wanted to know how to hula hoop, but I couldn't do it. And to me, it made sense because the hula hoop motion goes like this, right? It made sense that your hips would go like this, that would make it go in motion, right? So I would try. Here's what happens when your hips go like that. Falls to the ground, doesn't it? But then, one day, I decided to, at the age of 52, take hula hoop lessons. And as it turns out, there are physical laws to hula hooping. This is what I do in the middle of the night when I can't sleep. There's laws of torque and mass and uplift and up and downward motion, and you have to kind of counteract gravity by doing something to counteract the gravity. I'm doing a really great scientific rendition of this, aren't I? And there's friction, right? So all of those laws are in place, and the movement is much different than I thought. So now I know how to do hula hoop, right? Yeah. And at one point, I learned how to do all kinds of tricks with it, but y'all are sitting a little close, and sometimes it gets away from me, so I won't do that right now. Anyway, what is the metaphor in this? It has to do with law. So as I mentioned before, there are all of these laws of physics that collaborate in terms of keeping a hula hoop aloft, right? And those laws were there even before the hula hoop was invented. Those laws are omnipresent and everywhere. And those laws did not adapt to my ignorance. When I thought that I had to go like that to keep a hula hoop going, the law didn't say, oh, you know, she really wants this badly. She really wants to be able to use a hula hoop. We'll just adapt to her. No, the laws are firm. You can't mess with the laws. They are the laws of science you can't mess with. So what happened was I had to learn how to cooperate with the law in order to keep my hula hoop aloft. Isn't that profound? I said, isn't that profound? I whispered it because it was crazy. But anyway, so I had to receive the laws of hula hooping in order to make the hula hoop work. And the same thing is true for all spiritual laws, really. In Science of Mind, we recognize that grace is an omnipresent principle. Grace or goodness or whatever it is you want to call it is here, always. Also, law is omnipresent. Now, in my mind, I think that grace and law are actually the same thing, that law is a grace, and there is a law to grace. That may be getting a little too esoteric, but really, if those things are omnipresent, there's not a spot where those things are not. So grace is omnipresent, law is omnipresent. And as Hugh said in the poem that he read, everything is waiting for you, but we have to do something to receive it. So Bill mirrored this beautifully when he spoke about the letting go. Remember that? Remember our little friend up there on the ceiling, a balloon? He spoke about letting go. So for just a moment of reflection, see if there's a place in your life where you're really troubled, where you're really fixated on the absence of good, where something seems to be missing, where something seems like there's no solution. And maybe there is a solution that you just haven't discovered yet. And then ask yourself, is it possible to shift my focus, to maybe be open to some type of a solution or some type of a different perspective? And then ask yourself, when will I shift my focus? When will I do the spiritual work? And more importantly, am I willing to shift my focus today? What's wrong with today? Today is the perfect time to shift your focus. We don't have to wait. What have you learned about God's will? What have we learned about God's will? I always put up that really grumpy-looking God when I talk about kind of old-school religion. Actually, he's kind of hot. I mean, have you noticed he's got like some pecs and some biceps and whatnot, you know? But anyway, going on. I just love a man with a scraggly beard and a bad temper, don't you? You know? What have you heard of, what have you learned about God's will? Feel free to shout out. What is God's will? Love? Good. That's a good answer, yeah. I'm looking for the darker answers. What? Mercy. You guys have been too well schooled in religious science. What? Wisdom? Oh, come on, you people. What did you, when you were younger, what did you learn? Punishing. Thank you, Karen. You get a prize, okay? Heather. Not the opposite of what you want to do. God's, yeah. Many of you may remember my fear about God's will was that I was going to have to go live in a hut somewhere and, you know, do something that I didn't want to do.
He shall bring down the mighty.
He shall bring down the mighty. Yes, yes. And exalt, well, that's pretty good. But anyway, and exalt the humble. Yeah, exacting, demanding, punishing, vengeful, judgmental. Traditional, what? Conditional. That's like one of my unfavorite words. Conditional, yes. A jealous God, right, right. You guys are doing great now. Thank you. Thank you for getting the ball rolling. Okay, good, good. So, is all of that true? Yes and no, but we're going to explain that in just a moment. What I think helps us, if we've been raised with that kind of an idea of God, a jealous God, a punishing God, a God who will bring down the mighty, any of those other gods that we talked about, that guy with the beard and the bad hair, any of that stuff, if we've been raised with that, it's helpful to take the personality out of God, because really, we're projecting our personality onto God, not necessarily our personality, but the personality that we have of authority figures, right? The personality perhaps of the people that we've been raised with, or the people that have punished us, or the people that have been unkind to us, the people that have judged us, the people that have said you're worthy or you're not worthy, the people that have separated us into deserving and not deserving. So take the personality out of God and consider that God's will is much more like impersonal law. Impersonal law that allows hula hoops to stay suspended. Impersonal law that allows that type of thing in the cosmos to happen, whatever that is, whatever laws of physics and science makes those supernovas or whatever they're called happen. All of the laws that run our bodies without us even noticing. Oh my goodness, talk about what are you waiting for? All of the miracles that are happening in our bodies right here and right now is just incredible. The law that shifts our thinking. The law that understands that the quality of our thoughts affects the quality of our lives. If we just take all of the personality out of that and all of the punishment out of that and treat it just like I said about the hula hoop, like the laws are there, we just have to learn how to work with them. Then we're in much better shape, other than waiting for a thunderbolt from that guy in the sky to smite us, right? It works much better that way. It takes a lot of the shame and the fear and the self-judgment out of it. So God, we take out the personality from God and law, and we consider God's will as impersonal law, okay? Now, about law. The reason I said yes and no is that law is actually exacting. It's not necessarily punishing, but it is exacting. And it may, you know, when I hear the word that God, the phrase God is a jealous God, or some people say that it's supposed to be zealous. Some of the Aramaic translations say it should be God is a zealous God, meaning woo, right? But a jealous God also makes sense to me, not in terms of jealousy, but also that you really have to follow the law. You can't escape the law, right? So when I said about the hula hoop, when I was working with the hula hoop and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if the hula hoop was just kinder to me, if the laws worked on my behalf just because I wanted it? The law doesn't work that way. The law is exacting. If I was up here with, say, a feather and a tennis ball and a very expensive piece of Wedgwood china, if I dropped it, the law would be the same for the feather, the tennis ball, and the expensive piece of Wedgwood china. It would drop, it would fall, it would break possibly, not the feather, but or the ball, but the Wedgwood china would break, right? The rain falls on the just and the unjust, right? The law works for everybody in the same fashion because it is impersonal and it is exacting. It is exacting. But really, when we're using law properly, it is also helpful. Law is helpful. Now, human laws exist. Some people are opposed to human laws, but, you know, suppose we didn't have them. Suppose we didn't have certain human laws to protect us, such as stop signs. Stop signs are a beautiful thing, aren't they? Unless you're in India, where I shared with you recently, where a guy blew through a stop sign, and I said, "Oh, look that, you just blew through a stop sign. What about that?" And he goes, "Oh, in India, stop signs are only a suggestion." Okay. All right. There's also scientific laws. You know, scientific laws can seem punishing sometimes, but they also offer us order. You know, it's great to have gravity. It's great to have gravity. Wouldn't it be weird to be floating around this church? You know? The other thing about laws of science is that they offer us order, but they also offer us opportunity and joy. I think about when the people first looked at birds and said, "You know what? I think maybe we can fly too." And they used laws of science to offer the opportunity for flying so that I can fly to the other side of the world. You can fly to the other side of the world in a matter of hours, a lot of hours, but you can fly to the other side of the world. You don't have to take a boat anymore because you can fly, right? And joy. The laws of science offer us such joy. I get such joy out of my Alexa. And the music is good, but also her pronunciations are so comical to me. Where I say, you know, play this thing, and she goes, "Playing Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot." We've talked about Ethel Merman before. Oh, and there was another one. Oh, I often ask her to play Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and she goes, "Playing Seven Brides for Seven Brothers." It brings me such joy, as does the music. So scientific law can bring us tons of joy and also tons of healing and help. Kind of love science. It's awesome. And then there's spiritual law. You know, spiritual law can feel like it's punishing us, particularly if we have a vision of a punishing God. But if we depersonalize spiritual law, it helps us. Spiritual law, working with it in a constructive and a kind manner, can help us be in a place to receive the omnipresent grace that is all around us. You know, I have to say this. I feel like I say this almost every Sunday, but there is that, somebody said it last Sunday, I think, there is that old phrase from old-time science of mind religion, there's not a spot where God is not, right? And if God is infinite, you can't have infinite. If grace is infinite, you can't have infinite grace and then over here, no grace. Infinite encompasses everything. So grace is omnipresent, it is infinite. There is not a spot where grace is not. Ernest Holmes' thoughts about spiritual law. Ernest Holmes is the founder of this religion, and he's up in the choir loft right there next to my dog and Jesus, right over there, okay? So Ernest Holmes said, "If we believe in limitation, only a little can come to us. We are made to continuously increase our embodiment of grace. There is no limit to that increase. However, ignorance of the law does not excuse us from the effects of the law." That last part was just what I was saying about the hula hoop, right? I didn't know how the laws worked, and it didn't excuse me from the effects of it. But really, the more important part of that is that there is no limitation to the amount of grace that we can feel, the amount of grace that we can have, the amount of grace that we can experience through our embodiment of it, through our skilled use of spiritual law. So what is the skilled use of spiritual law? Well, the main thing is this is quoting Jesus, but it's in so many other mystical teachings as well. It is done unto you as you believe. Now, Ernest Holmes, and I love this about him, he makes a big deal about the word as. As you think about abundance, as you embody abundance, you feel abundant. It doesn't matter what's going on out here. As you start to embody abundance, as you start to feel the energy of abundance, because it is there. Even if, let's say, you don't have a lot of money in your checking account, there is still abundance in you. There is abundance in your body. There is abundance in the world. There is abundance in the food that you eat. There's abundance in the grocery store. Abundance is everywhere. As we start to believe in abundance, we start to see abundance everywhere, right? As we do it. The answer to prayer is the prayer itself. The answer to shifting our consciousness towards grace is the shift in consciousness, right? And that's why I said under that is that we're not seeking greater matter. That's a big Joel Goldsmith thing. And Joel Goldsmith and Ernest Holmes differed a little bit on this. We're not seeking greater matter. Yes, when we shift our consciousness to abundance, we do sometimes often get greater matter, greater material things into our lives, but the real prize is the shift in consciousness. It's about shifting our consciousness so that we can see grace anywhere and everywhere, no matter what is going on in our lives. That's true power. That's true power. That is investing our treasure in the consciousness of heaven versus investing our treasure in the things of the world and the material world, the things that moth and rust will destroy. That is investing our consciousness when we are not seeking greater matter, when we are seeking a shift in consciousness. That is investing our energy in that which is impermanent. Investing our energy in the changeless being that is God. When we invest in matter, that is investing our energy in what is impermanent, right? It is so much wiser, so much kinder, so much smarter, so much more freedom if we invest our energy in that which is permanent, which is the changeless omnipresence of grace that is around us always. And then it doesn't matter what happens outside of us because we start to see grace and goodness and love and joy and peace and happiness and everything. And if we don't see it, we become agents of change where we start to see it, And then as we start to see it, ripples go outward. Many of us went to the Sikh Gurdwara last week. Yes. Yeah. Not everybody went. It was lovely. A lot of people went. A lot of people from other faiths were there as well. And it was lovely. And that started with our relationship with the Gurdwara. It's a Sikh temple where they chant. They do kirtan, they chant, and they have a service. That started because of an adverse event. It started because somebody was killed because they were wearing a turban, right? It's ridiculous. But anyway, we reached out to the Gurdwara, and then they reached out back to us to thank us, and then the kirtan singer, Jaspreet, and I developed a friendship, and I went over there once to one of their services and spoke. She came over here and spoke. A bunch of us went over there and spoke and listened and sang. And the last thing I heard, I interviewed Jaspreet for cable television, and the last thing I heard, somebody in Tennessee heard that interview and is interviewing her about some of the challenges that Sikhs have in the world. You know, isn't that amazing? And that was a call to greater grace. That was a call to greater grace, saying we're not going to let this horrible incident that happened in the Midwest, we're not going to let that shut us down. We're going to call forth greater grace in that incident. So that's what I'm talking about. Even when things are awful, we can call forth a greater consciousness of grace and knowing and trust that if we work with the impersonal law, that things will shift and life will change. So what about grace? Grace, Ernest Holmes defines as the eternal givingness of God. The gift has already been given. Joel Goldsmith says, God cannot give you anything because God has already given you everything. Everything has been given. And then I say that it is almost unconditional. Now, who is it? That was Dot. Dot said unconditional. And yes, it is unconditional in that it does not depend upon conditions to be received. So as I said before with the Sikh Gurdwara, that was a horrible situation and they face a lot of challenges, but we can still find the grace to be change makers and the grace to love. And we may have challenges in our own lives. We may have challenges with money or relationships or love or work or whatever it is, but we can still find grace in that. Grace does not depend upon the external conditions of our lives. Grace is always there. But why is it almost unconditional? What's the one condition that grace requires? Yes. We must be able to, must be able to receive it. Grace must be received. Isn't that a little stinker, right? Don't you want, grace to just come and, hit you on the head with a frying pan and say, you're filled with grace now. Hallelujah. No, we have to do the work of receiving it. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing because we grow in the work of receiving it. Our hearts expand in the work of receiving it. And then as we are able to receive grace, there's something that happens. It's something like when a butterfly comes out of the chrysalis, you're not supposed to help it, right? Because then it doesn't have the strength of the wings to fly. It's the same thing with receiving grace. If we do the work of receiving grace, and it's not really work, it's more like the joy of receiving grace, then we have the wings to fly. And when we fly, we can fly all over the place and plant more seeds of grace everywhere. So grace needs to be received. Now you may be asking, how? How? I thought I was receiving grace. I want grace. Dang it. God, give me grace. That's not quite the way, okay? Usually grace, Wasn't expecting that slide. I forgot about that. Okay. One of the things is to believe that grace really is omnipresent. Okay? When something is going wrong, we say, well, there's no grace over here, is there? Right? I don't know if you do, but I do sometimes. It's like, well, God's over here in the good parts of my life, but grace, totally absent in this area of my life. Yeah. And I don't want to do the work of trying to find it. I don't care what I said in church. I don't want to. It's true confessions here. Okay. Why is Mrs. Doubtfire on a slide? Well, this is a story from the wisdom of Robin Williams, okay? Now, I don't think it really happened to him, but I'm going to use his name because it's much easier. Robin Williams tells a story about a time he went to a barber. He went to a barber to have his hair cut. That's an act of trust, by the way, just so you know, to have your hair cut by a total stranger. Anybody have a bad haircut fail? Oh, look, that's fun. That's a whole other sermon. Let's talk. Anyway, so he went to a barber to have his hair cut, and they were talking about all kinds of philosophical things. And finally, as they were talking, the barber said, you know what? Snip, snip, snip. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God because there are too many unhappy people in this world. And if we really had God, nobody would ever be unhappy. And Robin Williams just, maybe he didn't want to argue with him because he had scissors in his hands or whatever. I've done that. But he just let it go. And then the haircut ended, and Robin Williams liked the way it looked, and he went to pay the barber. And then he looked outside, and he saw this man with disheveled hair. Now, that's actually a Klingon, just so you know. So Robin Williams said to the barber, you know what? I'm not going to pay you because I don't believe in barbers. And the barber said, why? And he said, because look at that man. If there were really barbers, there would be no disheveled hair and unkempt beards in the world. And the barber said, this is the key point, yes, but if that man had come to me, he would no longer have disheveled hair and unkempt beards. Oh. When we actually come to God, we recognize God and we believe in God. Now, I have to be cautious about this because sometimes people think when things are going wrong, it means that they did something wrong and they are suffering because they didn't come to God in the right way, or that God is mad at them or something and they're doing something wrong. Our denomination is very, very tricky around that sometimes. I got a disease. What was in your consciousness? How did you get that disease, right? Ugh, not a good thing, right? The thing is that the externals, again, do not matter. It's whatever is going on, you come to God and you find the grace in it. You find the grace in it. You don't come to God necessarily to fix it. You come to God to change yourself so that you can see the grace in it. And then miraculously, once we start seeing the grace in a condition, in a situation, then things change beyond our imagination. This happened so many times in my life, and probably in your lives too, where you were searching for a solution and pounding God and bartering with God, and as I said one time, telling God that you'll be nicer to telemarketers if only he gives you what you want, right? And then you let go, and you let God be God. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of something miraculous, out of something completely unexpected, grace arrives through the letting go, through the surrender, and something shifts, and all becomes well. Ernest Holmes wrote, "The storehouse of infinite good is filled, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought, so that the good may spring forth into manifestation in our lives, but the awakening happens within our thought." Again, it's not about worrying about changing the externals too much. Of course we can want that, and of course it's often the motivation that gets us to change consciousness, but the shift in consciousness is the main thing. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, then all these things shall be added unto you. Seek ye first a shift in consciousness, and then everything changes. Everything changes, or everything becomes the way that it really is, and your perception of it changes. How about that? The free will of grace. So there is a little bit of free will in grace, right? Remember that fire? I think it's a fire thing, stop, drop, and roll, right? That's a cat rolling. To practice the free will of grace, perhaps we breathe, which means stop. Just let go. As I say to my dog, drop it, right? Just let go. Just let go. You can pick it up again if you want it. Some story that you're telling over and over in your head about how you can never have what you want, how this thing is never going to work out, there's no solution. Just let go. Leave a little room for the wholeness of spirit. And then start to believe in something better. Start to believe in perhaps the omnipresence of grace. That grace is here too, even though I can't see it. And that opens us up to the work of receiving. Receiving starts with believing, of course. But receiving means becoming very conscious of where we have already received grace. So everybody think of some place in your life that is filled with grace, something that you just love, something that feels so graceful, like such a gift that you didn't really do anything to earn, something that has been given to you. Let's just shout out a few of those. Friends, yeah, children. Okay, my beloved wife. What? Hemp? Health? Oh, health. I thought you said hemp. Okay. Sorry. Singing. All of these things. Your dog. Yeah, all of these things. The divine didn't have to create all of these things, right? And then think about something that you always take for granted. Something that you would never imagine. Like in that poem, you talked about the soap dish. I love the soap dish. I do now. I didn't before church this morning, but now I love the soap dish and the latch of the window that opens it up when you're hot, right? When I used to do gratitude practices all the time, I used to try and find smaller and smaller places. And I used to look at my life and, I'd name the big things, my family, my husband, my animals, my house, all of these things that I have enough food to eat. But then I would say, okay, find a really small place and see if you can find 20 aspects of gratitude in that. And I remember one time picking my wallet, and this was a long time ago, but in my wallet there was my driver's license, which gives me such freedom. My God. A library card. I don't have that anymore. I just click a button and listen to it on Audible, but still, at that time, that library card opened me up to so much great information. My insurance card that protected me. So much grace everywhere. And it's super fun to be like Bernie Austin and go around life and see all of the things that we appreciate, all of the things that have been given to us just because we exist. It's a wonderful place to be. It helps us cope and become strong in the challenging times that David sang about, right? Another great way to receive grace is in the power of community. And that's why I'm so glad you all are here today, that we're building grace together, that we'll be light showers together. We'll be grace seekers and grace finders and great grace demonstrators for each other, right? And one thing in community is that we learn from each other and we lift each other up. And there are big moments in community as well. Big moments, and we have a big moment to celebrate today. A very big moment. Some of us you may remember Jennifer Gadbury-Hadris, who is a practitioner, but now she's a minister. She passed her ministerial panel. There she is.
Now that it's happened, I can't hardly believe it's true. Ding dong, ding-a-ling dong, were the steeple bells ever quite as gay? Wonderful, wonderful day. Bluebirds in the bluebells sing a song to send me along my way. Wonderful, wonderful day.
Nice. Nice music. Thank you, Brian. That was good. Who can name that tune? I know you can. That's why we played it. It's Wonderful Day from Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about Will and Grace and your journey.
This is silly. Thank you. So after becoming a member
Yes.
here
Uh-huh.
and taking several classes and then
Yes.
starting practitioner training, we started doing visioning. And I was getting in my visioning that I was meant to be a minister.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, that's someone else's. No. Between when I actually admitted out loud that I was probably being called to be a minister, when I asked Bonnie to go out to dinner with me and talk me out of it, and she didn't. And it took me 9 years to actually send in the application to start ministerial school. So I was thinking like, oh, it's like Jonah and the whale, I'm going this way, I'm going to go do all these other things, and here I am getting vomited up onto the stage as a minister. Anyway, but I realized I tend towards self-flagellation, like, oh, I'm so dumb, it took so long, and all of these things. I was fighting it, but then I realized that the grace is always there, and I realized that the group I went through ministerial school, they're my sangha. I have such deep connections and such deep friendships and love, and everything was perfect and didn't seem perfect while I was going through it. But when I look back at it, everything was perfect and beautiful, and there's grace in that too, and there was grace in the wait. So here I am.
So you found grace where it seemed like there was no grace, and there it was, hiding for you, waiting for you the whole time.
Waiting right there all the time. I
go.
love gravity.
Yes.
I believe that we do not fight gravity, that we use gravity, and
Yes.
grace is the same thing.
Grace is the same thing. Perfect. I know you love gravity. You love all science.
I love all science.
I know you do. She's a former engineer.
And I love Star Trek, so so thank you for the Klingon. I'm like,
Yeah. Do you like your crown of thorns up there? I couldn't tell if it was crown of thorns or Statue of Liberty. Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice.
I have a very large head. I'm not sure.
You can work it out. You have to wear it because you're going to pray in just a minute. Before we pray, you have to pray with your tiara on.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm bossing you around. But anyway, before we do that, let's just close out the message by just inviting you to, you can stay up here, inviting you to reflect on yourselves, reflect for yourselves. You know, we've heard a beautiful example of how Jennifer found grace in a situation where she thought might be, where she thought grace might, the situation might be graceless. But look in your own life and see, if like Jennifer, you were flagellating yourself, or you are flagellating yourself, and you're focused on the absence of good. And see if there's any place in there where you are focused on the absence of good, or putting yourself down, or putting down somebody else, or putting down a situation. And then just ask yourself, are you willing? Are you willing to focus on the presence of good in that situation? Maybe find one good thing about it, one thing to appreciate. And if you can't, just be willing to be willing, and be willing to ask the divine to help you find something good in it. And then just ask yourself, is there a way that I can stop and breathe, rather, and believe and receive? Whatever comes up, just trust it. Just trust it and know it. And then one more quote to close us out. The thing is, I've been talking about will and grace as very similar factors, that there's omnipresence in both of them. But the truth is, and I learned this from Eric Butterworth, who I admire a lot. He's another metaphysical teacher, and really grace is greater than any seeds of doubt that we might sow. So we can be using the law ineffectively. We can be using the law to sow doubt or fear or whatever, but grace is greater. Grace comes tapping, knocking on the door and says, nope, move over, doubt. I'm taking over. Has anyone ever gotten any demonstration of something where your mind was acting like a complete butt and just getting in the way of everything? And by butt, I mean saying yes, but, okay? Yeah, grace is greater. Grace is greater. There is always room for grace. And so let's do these affirmations together now. If you would, please read them with me. Here we go. I love how spiritual law supports me. I believe in grace. I receive grace. I am grace. And so it is. Thank you very much. And we'll have Jennifer do our closing prayer.
All righty, everybody. First, I'm going to look at all of you, because this is amazing. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And breathing in. Taking this opportunity to roll in this divine love that we've come together to experience. I know that God is all there is, in everything as everything. I know that there is nowhere that God is not. I know that God is in me right now, that I am the perfect emanation and the perfect being, the perfect divine expression. And as I know that truth for myself, I know that truth for every single light and beloved that is here today, every single beloved that hears this message, every single beloved that doesn't hear this message, that we are all sparks of the divine, perfect, loving, grace-filled, blessed. As it can be no other truth than that. And I'm grateful to know this truth. Grateful to know every single spirit here. Grateful to know God in this moment. And I release my word into the universal law, and together we say, and so it is.
Okay, thanks everybody. Okay. All right, let's have some announcements. Okay, so flowers, the flowers this morning. Seriously? Jennifer's supposed to make the card. Did you write this about yourself? Today's flowers are to celebrate Jennifer Gadbury Hadris becoming a licensed CSL minister. Jennifer is amazing. She's elevated. Wait. There's more. Jennifer is amazing. She has elevated the joy and brain power in the office, shining her huge God light everywhere she goes. Words cannot express what a true gift she is to our center, and these flowers are a paltry substitute for the deep felt gratitude we feel every day for having her in our midst. I bow down to her wisdom, strength, and fortitude. What an amazing spirit, or whatever you want to say. I say, let's do a prayer, and then we'll go eat and pray and love and all of that stuff, okay? Here we go. All right. So turning within, let's just breathe and just celebrate this great morning with all of you here. Oh my goodness. God showing up as all of you with your energy and your kindness and your willingness to shout out answers and your willingness to be here in this center of love and joy and peace and kindness. I know that God is here today because God is everywhere. God is in each of us, and that God has drawn us together this morning by divine appointment for each of us to share our gifts, for each of us to be silent, for each of us to speak, for each of us to make new friends, for each of us to just gather together in this community to raise the consciousness for the whole of being, for the wholeness of being, and to understand that the work that we do here makes a difference. And so I'm just so grateful for this time together. I'm grateful for all spiritual gatherings, churches, temples, mosques, ashrams, gurdwaras, fundamentalists, atheists, whatever you are, we bless that. And we bless each other. And we bless our time together. And so with a heart that is so filled with blessedness and thanksgiving, I say, thank you, Spirit. Thank you, love. And I release these words into the mystery of grace that always says yes. And together we say, and so it is. Namaste.